Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about two soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is DeVader.
And I'm Peter Spezia. We're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games they come from without getting too bogged down in music theory. Joe, what are this week's games?
Up first is 2015's Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, a slightly divisive crossover that took JRPGs into the Japanese entertainment industry, bringing Nintendo's popular strategy franchise along for the ride.
Following that is the exploration of an uncharted planet through a cross between On Foot as Humans or in mechs called Skells, 2015's Xenoblade Chronicles X. A couple themes possible this week. 2015 is a pretty common one, though yours was 2015 in Japan and then 2016 when it came westward. Slight difference there, but yeah, original release, sure. But these are both underrated gems for Wii U. That's certainly for sure. And then also, we're going to talk about a song for each game that were really big hooks in trailers for these games. And honestly, like songs I associate with these games immediately because of those trailers. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing good. When this comes out, I'm actually just getting home from Mexico. So hopefully I'm doing more than good, but I don't know.
That's right. It's 2020 when this episode comes out. Not where we are. We're still in that old 2010s decade, but
yeah, it's 2019 still here. Man, how does the future sound?
Hopefully it sounds great. Hopefully you enjoyed our best of 2019 episode from last week. That was certainly a lot of fun to put together. Some tedious editing work, I'll say, but definitely a lot of fun to make and produce for you all. Hopefully you got to listen to some new game music that you hadn't heard before.
Yeah, and at time of recording, it hasn't gone out yet, but I think people will like it. I'm going to assume people liked it. I'm glad you all liked it. That is how I choose to approach this subject.
Well, before we get into our two games this week, let's talk about some more composer follow-up news, some headlines about the composers that we've covered so far on this show, and we talk about Austin Wintory some more with podcasting. There's his show with Game Maker's Notebook, but he's doing a new podcast, and this is called Play, Watch, Listen. This is with Alana Pierce, Austin Wintory, Troy Baker, and Mike Bithell. These four get together. Mike Bithell, name may sound familiar from the Thomas Was Alone episode. He's the game creator there. But it's on podcast storefronts now, so if you like listening to more podcasts with game industry people, check it out.
And then a couple of things you can go watch that are related to games that we have covered. Bastion has been featured in a no-clip documentary, which I didn't know until I read that just now, and I'm going to have to go check that out. But also, the Witcher series on Netflix has come out, and I hear very good things. I hear it's extremely good.
Toss a coin to your Witcher. I'm sure Darren Korb is in that Bastion documentary. I'd have to imagine he is, so there you go. Connection there. Also, by this time, I'm sure Giant Bomb's top 10 games of 2019 coverage has been steadily rolling out. As of recording now, Danny Baranowski put out his top 10. He's the composer from Super Meat Boy and other games. And I'm sure other figures from the game industry, possibly some composers, will also be included. So check that out. That's always a good time to see what people's different top 10 lists are for games.
Yeah, and Danny Baranowski, as we covered last week, had a really cool year this year because he got to work with Zelda music. So, I mean, so, with that out of the way, it's time to really get into the entertaining bit. I only say that because my game's about entertainment, and I was trying to make a cool segue, and it didn't really work, but it's fine. We'll get through it.
Games are entertainment.
Exactly. See? Peter gets it. Why don't you, listener? You probably get it. Anyways, we're going to talk about Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, which is a very hard name to say.
Holy crap, is it?
And I'm going to have a lot of trouble this entire time. But let's just try and get through this. We're all in the same boat. So this game was originally released on December 26th, 2015 in Japan as Gene Ibun Roku Sharp FE, which translates to Illusory Revelations Sharp FE, for the Nintendo Wii U. And then it would see a Western release 6 months later on June 24th, 2016 as Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. Yes, it's pronounced Sharp FE. Not hashtag FE. That is not a pound sign or a hashtag. It is the musical notation symbol for sharp. If you don't know what sharp means, because you haven't played instruments, basically like you have a C, and then a C sharp would be a note like a half step higher than a regular C. And then a flat would be a half step lower than a regular C is the best way I can think to explain it.
Simple way of doing so.
It's that because this game, music is a big part of this game. It was developed by Atlus and published by Nintendo, and serves as a crossover between Atlus's style of modern JRPGs and some characters from Nintendo's Fire Emblem franchise, which we have talked about twice now, technically. The Awakening episode, and then Three Houses came up last week, briefly. So, it is a JRPG that, much like Atlus's Persona franchise, takes place in modern-day Japan. Players are given control of Itsuki Aoi, a high school student and childhood friend of the secondary main character, Tsubasa Orebe. When Tsubasa attends an audition to become an idol, alongside Itsuki, who's just there, if I remember correctly. He's just sort of there. The concert hall is attacked, and the people inside are stripped of an energy known as Performa. But Itsuki and Tsubasa escape this attack and wind up in a realm known as the Idolosphere. Buckle in, kids. This game's premise, when put into words, is kind of a mess. Like, reading the plot synopsis on Wikipedia, I forgot how stupid the premise is. Because it's really dumb. But let's get back into it. While in the Idolosphere, they encounter two Mirages who have been possessed by evil energy. Mirages being like spirits from another world, basically. But as Itsuki and Tsubasa awaken to their heightened levels of Performa, they are able to cleanse these Mirages and form an allyship with them. These Mirages reveal themselves as Chrom and Sita, two warriors from another world, and characters from Fire Emblem Awakening and the original Fire Emblem Dark Dragon, respectively. Though they are both suffering from amnesia and don't remember how they got into this world or really anything about their world. So using the powers of these new allies, Itsuki and Tsubasa gain a power known as a Carnage form, which is basically like, what if your persona fused with you and then like gave you a new costume and some superpowers? And now that I'm thinking about it, it's really close to the thief outfits in Persona 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, very similar. I never made that connection before, but here we are. From here, they are both recruited by a company known as Fortuna Entertainment, who is a talent agency run by a former model named Maiko Shimazaki, who is my mom, and that is also secretly working to fight off Mirage attacks as they happen. And through this, they are introduced to even more Mirage Masters, each with their own entertainment field that they are connected to, and a Fire Emblem character to serve as their counterpart. So, in the cast, you have Toma Akagi. He is an aspiring tokusatsu actor. If you don't know what tokusatsu is, it's Super Sentai is a tokusatsu show that we took and turned into Power Rangers. So that's what tokusatsu is. It basically just means like masked heroes. He works alongside the Fire Emblem Dark Dragon character, Kain. You also have Kiria Kurano, who is the coolest lady in the world, and a longtime idol with a tough girl image who works alongside the Fire Emblem Awakening character, Tharja. You have Eleonora Yumizuru, a half-Japanese actress who's working to eventually get her dream Hollywood debut. and she fights alongside the Fire Emblem Awakening character Virion. You've got Mamori Minamoto, who has the best Carnage form in the entire game. She was a young cooking show host who likes old-fashioned things and wishes to break out of her current state as just a cooking show host and also do other stuff. And she fights alongside the Dark Dragon character Draug. And then lastly, you have Yashiro Tsuguri. He is an edgy male idol who's just a big ol' edge boy. That's his character, as far as I remember. He's just very edgy. And he fights alongside the Dark Dragon character Navarre. And in addition to those, you also have Tiki, who is a young dragon who actually appears in both games, Awakening and Dark Dragon. She's a very important character, as she is the explanation navigator sort of character, basically. And she appears to be a Mirage that's stuck in the idolosphere, but the most important part is that she is disguised as a vocal. I meant to say the non-licensed one, which is she is an Utaloid.
Because Uta means song.
I forgot that's what she was called until getting here. So that's fun. There's also an American dance instructor named Barry Goodman. He is a massive weeb and also a very good man.
They really just didn't try with that name, I guess.
They did not try at all.
A very good man. Okay, all right.
It's so good. I love it. I actually really love it when they just seem to not what do we name the American? I don't know. Very good man. Very good man. We did it. It's like the Pro CD delivery. Yeah. It's perfect. So together at Fortuna Entertainment, this group of people both work to further careers in the entertainment industry, such as Tsubasa works to become an idol herself, while Itsuki is trained as a manager? I don't know. He's kind of not really interested in being a member of the entertainment industry for pretty much the entire game, while simultaneously fighting off Mirage attacks and trying to figure out why the Mirages are here in the first place. So, for the most part, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is your usual JRPG fare. I'm going to stop saying the full title. It is now TMS for the rest of the episode. I can't do it. Mirage and Sessions right next to each other. Incredibly hard to say.
It's so mean. It's so mean.
So you have dungeons that you can run around in. There's a town. You can walk around Shibuya and other parts of Tokyo. It's really actually kind of a Persona Light, in my opinion. Imagine Persona 5, but a little bit more condensed and with no calendar system. And you have Tokyo Mirage Sessions. That's all it is. So if you like Persona, you'll probably like this game. The player can enter and unlock dungeons as the story progresses, and much like Persona 4, you can actually go back to dungeons after you've finished them, and go grind in there and go for other items, and sometimes side stories will have you going back into old dungeons. And speaking of side stories, every character has one. They all have social link style side stories that you unlock as the game progresses or as you level them up, basically. And that includes Maiko, Barry, and Tiki. All have their own as well. So it's a really good cast, honestly. But what is most notable to me about Tokyo Mirage Sessions and its gameplay, I keep saying I'm going to say TMS, and then I keep not, is its fantastic battle system. Specifically, the use of sessions. So, I'm going to try my best to explain this in words, and I'm going to do a bad job at it. But basically, as the game goes on, characters can earn various session abilities that will allow them to follow up when somebody hits an enemy with their weakness, which is largely based on either the SMT-style elemental weaknesses or the weapon triangle from Fire Emblem. Both of these can be weaknesses for enemies.
And let's clarify SMT being Shin Megami Tensei.
Correct. So like stuff like hit this enemy with fire and that it's their weakness. So let me describe a scenario in which this would come into play. So basically, let's say you're fighting an enemy and they're weak to sword. So you have Itsuki hit that thing with his sword, which stuns it. And then let's say Tsubasa has an ability that says when somebody hits an enemy with a sword that's weak to sword, then I will immediately follow up with a free hit with my lance. And then let's say that if somebody like Kiria has something that says when somebody hits something with a lance in a session, I'll use a fire spell, and so on and so forth until you're out of those. And eventually, near the end of the game, you're getting sessions that are like 6 or 7 attacks long, sometimes involving people that aren't even in your party, and it's just really, really satisfying. And the player can also use this to like earn dual attacks and techniques between certain characters by completing side stories, which those can be triggered by filling an SP gauge, which is filled by doing session attacks. And there's also stuff like ad-lib skills where like a character will just randomly do something during the battle and like do something crazy strong. And like, I could explain the entire thing, but A, I don't remember everything because I played this game 4 years ago. And B, there's a lot. We'd be here all day. So that being said, what are your experiences with Tokyo Mirage sessions? Sharp FE.
So the Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem game, I remember this trailer first being revealed. I think I was at Nintendo New York watching this be revealed during the Nintendo Direct. It was, this would have been April 1st, I want to say 2014? Something like that? No, 2015 maybe. Because it was the same Direct where it was Lucas revealed, and I think...
Yeah, I think that would have been April 2015, I think.
So April 1st, 2015. And so I remember seeing this, and it's like, it looks really cool. It's got this great song to go along with it. I eventually bought the game. I have the game on Wii U. I've played some of it. I've gotten up to the point where you're in the entertainment center. You just mentioned the name of it, and I'm playing Fortuna Entertainment. So you're there for the first time, and like you kind of get to explore the place. And I stopped there for a reason, because it was only a few months before Persona 5 was about to come out. And so I must have played this January of 2017-ish. And I was just like, I really like this, but I don't want to get burned out on Shin Megami Tensei like or light style gameplay before I play this massive game that I've been waiting for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, have I gone back to Wii U? No. No, I haven't. This is the game that's in my Wii U because it was the last game I've played on my Wii U. But I am looking forward to why we are talking about this game in particular today. So,
same. I bought it at launch and then I believe beat it fairly soon after. I beat it at some point in 2016. I think I managed to eke it in near the very end of the year. And I'm very happy with myself for doing that because it was one of those things where it was like, I mean, I like this game, but I have other things to do, and I would fall off for like a month at a time, and then I'd go back and play it. I think this game is super good. I think it is one of the best games on the Wii U, and I think it is a game that, while I think people have honestly kind of good reasons for not really wanting to give it the time of day, I think that people are a little too harsh on it that haven't played it. And I get why, but like, again, like if you like Persona, you're gonna like this game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This game is just a slightly watered down Persona with Crom in it. Like that's all it is. I don't know. I'm very happy that it is coming out with the release that is the reason we're talking about it today, which I'll get to probably in the next 3 years. I don't think I'm gonna buy it at launch probably, just to make sure, like, you know, I gotta make sure that they know this was the right call. This is what I was asking for. But I don't think I'm gonna play it until we hit it for Smasterpieces, because it is our game for Crom.
Interesting.
Which is how I'm gonna get Matt. Which is how I'm forcing Matt to play it. So I win in the end. Though Matt might end up playing it himself when it comes out on Friday.
Though at the same time, 2020, now that we're in it, is a ridiculous year for games, so I don't blame anyone for passing on it.
Yeah, get it eventually, but like, if you got other stuff that you gotta, like, March is gonna be hard. March is gonna be a lot. We all gotta batten down the hatches for that. But anyways, so let's talk about the actual development of this game. There's a lot of information about the development of this game. I had to cut a bunch of stuff, or this would have been twice the length it's going to be. So let's get started. The original idea for this game apparently did not come from Atlus. It instead came from Nintendo producer Kaori Ando. In 2010, she began to voice her desire to produce a Fire Emblem crossover with her mentor and fellow Nintendo producer, Hitoshi Yamagami. She was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to make Fire Emblem cross something. Her original plan was to do a crossover between Fire Emblem and Pokemon. As a lot of her career, actually, when I looked into her, she's made a lot of the Pokemon spinoffs. Like, she's been like either director or producer or a myriad of other positions on just a ton of Pokemon spinoff games. Unfortunately for her, Pokemon Conquest was in development at that time. Which, if you've never heard of Pokemon Conquest, it is a crossover between Pokemon and the strategy game series Nobunaga's Ambition, and it plays very similarly to Fire Emblem already. And for this reason, because this game already existed, her pitch was turned down. So bad timing on that, unfortunate, but she did not let this stop her. As she redrafted this pitch and instead decided that she wanted to do a crossover between Fire Emblem and Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei. Because Atlus had worked with Nintendo on games in the past. They put their games on Nintendo. They had developed games for Nintendo in the past. And so she was very easily able to get a hold of some of the higher-ups in the company and pitch the idea. But when she did so, they didn't exactly seem super excited about the whole pitch. And in fact, they responded with like, we're way too busy right now for anything like that. No, sorry. And so the pitch just sort of sat dormant for over a year until Atlus called Nintendo back and said, hey, yo, that's still on the table? Because it turns out that they were super enthused about the idea. They just actually were really, really busy at the time. So the two agreed. The two companies agreed. All right, let's do this. Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei. And Ando was actually put in the director's chair for the game alongside two veteran SMT directors, Mitsuru Hirata and Eiji Ishida. And initially, apparently, one of their big problems, their first big hurdle was, hey, yo, what genre is this game going to be, though? Because we're looking to cross over a JRPG franchise with a strategy game. And so that was really what it came down to. Like, should it be an RPG? Should it be a grid-based strategy game? How much Fire Emblem should be in there? How much SMT should be in there? And this was apparently going to be the deciding factor of, well, I mean, is Atlus making this or is Intelligent Systems making this game? And eventually they decided, well, no, it should be an RPG. So they gave development reins fully to Atlus. Fun fact, Atlus initially had decided to still incorporate a grid-based strategy battle system as the battle system in the game. but they were kind of struggling with it to figure out how to do it well. And apparently Intelligent Systems specifically were like, no, guys, just do what you're good at. Don't try and like break out something new for this. Just do what you're good at. So for people that that complain that it's not really all that Fire Emblem-y, that's Intelligent Systems' fault, not Atlas. They told them to. Also, apparently, I found this really funny. So when we did the episode about Fire Emblem Awakening, one of the things you brought up was that one of the earliest concepts of the game was possibly having it take place in modern day. That concept is apparently why this game takes place in modern day.
Aha.
They specifically took from that and rolled with it. As for why they would go on the Wii U of all things, and not the 3DS, which was the big place for Fire Emblem at the time, Fire Emblem Awakening had just been a smash hit on the 3DS, and Atlas wanted to sort of show what they called a different expression of Fire Emblem, and so they were like, well, we'll put it on the Wii U then, because, you know, it's a different thing. But apparently they claim there were plans for a 3DS version at one point, but obviously that never went anywhere. I don't know what that would have looked like, honestly, but it was in the cards at some point, I guess. In terms of story, the initial idea behind the Fire Emblem characters appearing as the Mirage spirit creatures was based on Japanese shamanism, specifically a concept called Kami Oroshi, which involves a deity possessing and communicating through a priest or ritual dancer. And the dancer aspect is where they decided, oh, the entertainment industry. What if those were like the modern version of that? And that's where that came from. So it's just like this web of things that all connected to create this fairly unique narrative, in my opinion. And that's really, really interesting. For this reason, though, because they knew that not everybody would be super on the up and up about the behind-the-scenes things in Japanese entertainment, especially when it came to the West, when we don't know anything about Japanese entertainment. Itsuki was purposely made to be a character who is well outside of it, and who really doesn't have an interest in being in it. So they had an excuse to be like, well, this is how this works, and this is why it's this way, and yada, yada, yada. I actually read, I don't think it was meant to be worded this way, but when I was reading up on Itsuki's voice actor, it, for some reason, specifically said, oh yeah, he was casted because we wanted him to be like as unexciting and uninteresting as we could while still having a good character. And I don't think that was meant to be a burn on the voice actor for Itsuki.
It's also not what you should do for a protagonist.
But that is how it came off. Like, I like the cast of this game. I don't remember Itsuki at all, which is probably very emblematic that, hey, you guys succeeded, I guess. But
so you're saying that it's emblematic that he didn't have a fiery personality.
Yeah, that would technically be what I'm saying, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll see you all next week with the next episode of Original Soundchat. Apparently, the side stories and main stories at one point were not separated, so like side stories would get unlocked at the same time as main story content. And this just sort of caused players, I guess, to be like, yeah, but the main story stuff's more important. And then just ignore it. So to get around this, they set up like specific like intermission sections of the game where that's when side stories happen. That's when you go take Kiria out on her stuffed animal vacation. I don't remember what any of the side stories are about. It's been 4 years.
That sounds amazing because Kiria is best girl.
I mean, she's second best girl. She's coolest girl. I think that's really interesting in a way of like, side quests are just a thing in JRPGs, and I wonder what really led to people just being like, no, I'm going to beeline this. Because the side stories are really good, and they do actually end up being quite important to the main story as well. They really sort of almost seamlessly integrate themselves. It's really cool. I like it. Another struggle was apparently figuring out exactly how the Fire Emblem characters were going to appear, because, quote, characters in medieval armor just dropping into a modern setting would have looked strange. Would it have? Would it have really? Pretty sure we have multiple games about that now. One early concept was just to have them show up as human party members. But eventually they just decided, no, let's have them be summonable entities similar to the demons and personas of the SMT franchise. So there's more of a connection there. Battles in-game are witnessed by an audience made up of lesser mirages who get more excited the better the player does in battle. Think Paper Mario. Paper Mario has something very similar. You do something cool in Thousand Year Door, and the audience is like, yeah! And they give you stars? I don't remember. But for this reason, they had a bunch of early concepts about battle that kind of sound amazing, but I'm not surprised they got cut. One being that the transition between battles was a clapboard at first. And the second being that there was an in-battle color commentator. Both of these things were cut. I want to hear that commentator.
I mean, they both sound better than the combat in my game, what it sounds like, so...
Like, I want to hear that commentator. I really do. I don't know what he'd say. The battles are fairly straightforward, but that sounds amazing. In terms of art design, the game's color palette is made up of bright colors, meant to be a departure from what SMT usually looks like, which is dark, muted colors. Remember, this is a time before, like, Persona, by this time, was basically considered its own franchise. So, like, I know people might look at, like, Persona 4 Golden and be like, that's muted colors? That's what your idea of muted colors are? Come on, man. No, we're talking SMT proper, which is, as far as I'm aware, dark, depressing, and muted colors.
I mean, there was Shin Megami Tensei 4 on 3DS, I think, at the time. Or if not, coming out very soon, so...
I believe, yeah, it would have been out by then. This game came out after 4, I know for sure. But they wanted to step away from that. And also, they wanted to make sure that the color palette was really symbolizing the fact that this game is about the entertainment industry. So, bright, poppy colors, get your attention grabbing, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, the Idolosphere dungeons were based more on like a medieval sort of feeling to them, with the muted colors that you might expect, because, as they put it, they wanted it to symbolize that the Mirages had lost their ability of expression. Because remember, this game's all about expression. Like, artistic expression.
Performa.
That's such a stupid name for anything. I love the names in this game. They're all dumb. So the existence of this project was actually made public during a January 2013 Nintendo Direct as Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. But this reveal took place like 2 months after the game entered pre-production. Like, they didn't have a solid concept yet. I would bet you money they didn't even have a prototype yet. And so this very vague trailer that was just a bunch of Fire Emblem characters and then a bunch of Shin Megami Tensei characters. Like, I remember this trailer clearly, honestly. This very vague trailer that showed no gameplay didn't even tell people what kind of game it was. So people were just like, well, what kind of game is it? Is it a strategy game? Is it an RPG? What is it? And then the next day, Atlas was like, oh yeah, no, it's an RPG. It's going to be a JRPG. And then we heard nothing until April of 2015. Not a single peep.
There it is, April 2015.
Yeah. I believe in the Wikipedia article, it mentions that while talking about Codename Steam, somebody asked the director, like, hey, yo, is that game still happening? He was like, oh yeah, it's on schedule. We're good. And so in April of 2015, the first gameplay trailer was shown, and it confirmed the official title, as well as the release window for the game. I had a little bit of a blowback, because in a way, both Fire Emblem fans and Shin Megami Tensei fans looked at it and said, that's not the game you told us we were getting. And in a way, they're right, except they didn't tell you what game you were getting. So it's this weird mixture of like, I totally get why people were mad. I 100% get it. Especially Shin Megami Tensei fans. Look, I love Persona, but I totally get why SMT fans were like, oh, so that's the franchise now, huh? We don't get ours anymore? All right, cool. Well, on one hand, like, sorry guys, yours didn't make $1 billion. Ours did. So, what can I tell you? So yeah, that was sort of and then Fire Emblem fans were over there like, what does this have to do with Fire Emblem? Like, I see Crom right there, but like, what does this have to do with Fire Emblem outside of that? So there was that. The game also came out in the West without an English dub, which, granted, I think was the right call. I think it worked a little bit better. I might just be coming from a weird area where, like, I played a lot of Yakuza now, and I think I could never play a Yakuza game dubbed, ever. You could not force me to at gunpoint if you tried. Something about this game felt like it needed to be in Japanese, and they felt like it too, except it wasn't for them. They just felt like it. It was, we don't want to go through the trouble of finding actors who can also sing, who will also then perform translated versions of all of these songs. When people like the songs in the original Japanese better anyways, what's the point? So that's the official reason for why there was no dub. I think the actual reason was because they didn't think the game was going to sell well enough to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, they'll never come out and say that, but that is what I personally think the actual reason was, because they totally could have just left the songs in Japanese and had English voice actors. Games do that all the time. Some other things were also changed in the Western release, such as removing references to and changing a side story about gravure modeling, which is a type of modeling popular in Japan that's typically focused on being suggestive and provocative. And it also aged some characters up, so throwback to Bravely Default, which did the same thing, and changed some outfits to be less revealing. And this stirred some controversy amongst fans, I used air quotes for those in the audio version, who cried censorship, because they don't know what that word means. Most famously leading to a wonderful, beautiful chef's kiss tweet complaining about how they had removed Tsubasa's vagina bones.
Yeah, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago, hinting that this was coming, but boy, oh boy, that just, I would say it gets very old, but at the same time, like, there's something so special about it. Like, anyone who uses that phrase unironically has never seen a vagina in real life. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Has never seen a person in real life. Like, what is wrong with you? Granted, I do think that I've talked with some of our friends about this at sort of length. The gravure thing is actually a fairly legitimate criticism, because that scene is actually explicitly in Japanese pointing out like, hey, yo, this is creepy, isn't it? Like, this is really creepy, though. And making it not gravure anymore just makes the scene kind of weird. That's the only one of those that I will agree with. None of the others. The rest are stupid. Who cares? Side note, though, people that tend to blame these changes on Nintendo or on the Treehouse, which does a lot of localizations for Nintendo, guess what? Ain't their fault. Because this game was localized in-house by Atlus USA. Nintendo was not involved with this game's localization. This was all on Atlus. Nevertheless, despite this controversy, the game was received fairly positively upon release. Most publications praised the story, the likable cast of characters, however cheesy the story and characters may be, and they claimed the game would be most enjoyable to people who enjoy anime, which I like anime sometimes. Not a good one in the bunch, but I like anime. And also the combat system got a lot of praise because, again, so satisfying, so good. However, there was some criticism aimed at the overall bland dungeon designs, which, hey, some of those dungeons really suck. That photography dungeon, that's the only dungeon I can name off the top of my head because I disliked it so much. And also a large absence of Fire Emblem style elements in the gameplay were also a sticking point for some reviewers. For instance, the weapon triangle is there in enemy weaknesses, and the Fire Emblem characters are in the game. And that's pretty much where Fire Emblem content ends. Currently, the game is sitting at a Metacritic score of 80 out of 100. In 2016, Destructoid awarded it Best Wii U Game, and many critics regularly include the game on their list of best games ever released for the Wii U. And Tokyo Mirage Sessions was at last, after all of my letters to Nintendo, because I sent so many. I didn't actually send any, but in my heart I did. It is getting a release on the Switch. It was announced late 2019. It is titled Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. It is releasing next Friday on January 17th, 2020. So absolutely go pick it up if I have made this game sound at all interesting to you. And if you didn't get to it on Wii U, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good. It's going to have a bunch of extra content. Super pumped for this release. The music for Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE blah 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 was done by Yoshiaki Fujisawa. He was born on September 12th, 1981, and that's all the information I got.
Aww.
I can't find anything on this man, except that he's not a game composer. I was able to find that because he works in the anime industry pretty much exclusively. This is the only game he has ever done a soundtrack for. The anime that he has worked on include Love Live! School Idol Project, Land of the Lustrous, A Place Further Than the Universe, Review Starlight, Miss Vampire Who Lives in My Neighborhood, and The Helpful Fox Senko-san, which are just the ones that I recognize. He's been working in anime since like 2005. So yeah, in terms of actual development for this soundtrack, musical performances are a big part of the game, and in order to choreograph and produce these performances, George Aburai of the company Avex Group was brought in to production, and it was through Aburai that Fujisawa actually ended up involved in the project, because Fujisawa was apparently brought in through a phone call from Aburai that simply asked, according to him, "Hey, busy?" He said no. And then he was working on a video game. And that seems to be exactly how it went down, according to him. I was able to find one single interview that basically explained a couple of things in here, including that as he was used to doing TV shows and not video games, he remarked that, hey, yo, those are way different. So he had to get himself into a completely different mindset. Everything was completely changed from what he was used to, and he just found getting himself into that mindset to be really hard. But the Atlas sound team actually gave him a ton of guidance through that process. As a large theme of the game was entertainment, he wanted to make songs that would generally invoke the feeling of being on a stage, as well as just being generally groovy and fun to listen to. And Fujisawa himself apparently has a character in the game that is based on him. Like looks and everything, which is really kind of neat, honestly. And the last couple factoids, a lot of effort was apparently put into finding voice actors that could both play their characters while also being able to sing the various songs each character would perform. And every actor seems to have their own story about why this was a really hard game for them to act in. For instance, my favorite two that have to do with the music specifically are Yoshimasa Hosoya, who plays Yashiro, had no natural sense of rhythm, so singing his songs were really hard. My other favorite is that Sumire Morohoshi, who plays Tiki, had a lot of difficulty recording like multiple harmonies because she had to do that because Tiki is a Vocaloid. And so they had to make it sound more computerish with harmonies. And so they would modulate it and throw harmonies. And she had to sing all of those harmonies. She said that was very, very difficult. But apparently Aburai was in the room during all recording sessions, discussing with the cast members all of the vocal nuances about everything. And also like what they were interpreting the music to mean to their characters, which is kind of cool. Now I've talked for long enough. It's time to finally hear what this game sounds like, and there's really no other choice for which song to start with than Reincarnation. This is the opening credits theme of the game, and it was also the song used during the first gameplay trailer of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. This song absolutely rules. It's really, really super anime. And honestly, I would personally consider it the main theme of the game. Mm-hmm. It is performed in-world by Kiria, and apparently, Kiria's voice actress, Yoshino Nanjo, had to re-record this song upwards of 10 times before they felt that she had properly done it in a way that fit with Kiria's character. And in the end, I think she absolutely crushed it. She's so good.
She totally crushed it. This is the song I always associate with this game. It is fantastic. I always get like goosebumps, chills, whatever have you when this beat drops on this song. It's so good. Yeah. Again, I felt bad only limiting it to 30 seconds for the clip, but listen to the whole song. It's a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely. This is one of the few songs that was actually officially released. The actual background music of this game wasn't officially released, but the vocal songs were, which I imagine if Atlas was going to pay the money to record all those, they better damn well have been. This specifically was released on a single with 6 other tracks, though I could not actually find which tracks those were. I imagine the other vocal pieces, if I had to take a guess. For our number 2 critical track, we have Normal Battle. When describing this song, Fujisawa says, "I just can't help but want to dance while fighting." Me too, thanks. This is my favorite song in the game, weirdly enough. This is the song that I can pick out immediately, no matter what. I could honestly listen to this song for like a 30-minute loop if I had to. And I know this because I have many times.
Isn't it fun when you find songs like that?
Oh yeah, it is disgustingly catchy. It's very simple too. Like, there's not much to this song, but there's enough that I'm just like, yeah. And I don't think I ever got tired of this song ever, which is really weird for how not much there is to it. So yeah, I think this is possibly among one of my favorite like regular battle themes in a JRPG. I love it.
Yeah, and for it being a regular battle theme, I think when it kicks in, like, you can't hate on this. But I could see why people could get a little annoyed when like the battle's starting up. It's the da 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 da. Like it's got this, not distortion, but like this like saw like sound to it that I guess could be a little annoying. But yeah, when it kicks in with the full beat and the guitar, like, yeah, no, this song is real fun.
I'm a huge fan of it. Like I said, I never really found myself getting tired of it. And to me, that's usually a good sign of a good like battle theme. I don't know. It also helps that this game doesn't have random encounters, so maybe that was part of it. Our next song on the Critical 5, number 3, is Determination. This is one of those fun songs that was not officially released, and so we don't know the actual title of the song, so this is also found on the internet as Synchronization. And I honestly could not point out a specific section of the game in which this song plays. Again, it's been 4 years. I don't remember. But YouTube descriptions describe it as playing during inspirational moments. It's just been too long for me to remember what any of those mean, but this song rules. It's super great, and it does successfully, like, hype me up when I hear it. So, hey.
Yeah, I wonder if it's, like, moments where, like, a character's, like, fusing, I don't know if that's the right word, with their Fire Emblem counterpart. Maybe things like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But yeah, it's got good energy to it. It sounds, yeah, like big things are happening in the game. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. After that, number 4, we have Special Battle. We don't know what it's actually called. You can also find it on the internet as Dual Battle. And again, I don't know if I could point to like a specific instance in which this song would play, but I do have like vague memories of hearing this song in-game. According to YouTube descriptions, it plays during special event fights, and it's first heard in the Daiba Studio Idolosphere. And I sort of remember hearing it every once in a while, I think. Honestly, the main thing that draws me to this song is the synthy distorted guitar part that's in the clip. I love that. For some reason, that sound just like really resonates with me. It's such a cool sound.
Yeah, and this track goes places, as you hear in the clip. It's like, in just 30 seconds alone, it's like 3 different kind of sounds. So you're getting a lot with this one.
I'm a big fan of it, and I wish I remembered more about exactly where it plays. I really gotta replay this game. But I think I'm gonna wait till we hit Smasher Pieces. Oh man, I don't know. I'm really tempted. But we're not talking about that right now because we gotta get one more critical track. Number 5. It's Medea's Second Phase.
Is Tyler Perry in this game?
Also known as, no, that's I can't think of a funny joke. I can't think of something that's gonna top that. Damn. This is also known on the internet as Medea's final form. It is the music for the second form of the final boss of TMS, the Shadow Dragon Medeus. Or Medeus? One of those pronunciations is probably correct.
Medeus X.
Matt is already messaging me as we speak. This song is one of the few songs that actually sort of incorporates the Fire Emblem theme in certain parts. But like, it's a 9-minute song. I do not envy you having to have figured out a good 30-second clip of this song. 9 minutes. Too long. But it's also all super cool. And just, I think the part that really stands out to me that I really, really enjoy is that this song is this near flawless feeling fusion of orchestration and then also all of the electronic sounds you've been hearing the whole game. So it's the orchestration you hear in Fire Emblem and the electronic things you've been hearing since the start of the game put together. It's great.
Yeah, I think for the clip I just played the part that I thought sounded coolest, but go listen to the whole thing. It's a good time.
Mm-hmm. So, for tracks on the cutting room floor, I have 2. I tried to avoid just making, like, it was really hard to not make, like, 3 out of 5 of those songs, the vocal songs, but no, you gotta get the background music in there. But I do have 2 vocal songs that I really, really took a shine to when I played that really brought back memories when I went back and listened to this soundtrack for the first time since I beat the game, by the way. So, the first one is Labyrinth. So, like, look, Ellie's my girl. Eleonora's my girl. But I cannot deny that Kiria is the coolest member of the team by a wide margin.
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's not even close. She's so cool. Sucks that her Carnage form is terrible, but she's so cool. And this song is by her, and it's really, really good. And Kiria's just cool. And for my second track on the cutting room floor, Raindrop Memories. This is Mamori's only song, so going from the worst Carnage form to the best Carnage form, because Memories is so good. I don't know if you ever saw it, it's so good. Mm-hmm. I like just sort of the old school style for this song that she incorporates because, like, it really fits her character. She's this character that, like, she wears a kimono at all times, and she just really likes Enya, and that's the kind of stuff she wants to do. And so this song really stuck with me when I played. I think it's really good. So what will I never forget about this game that I do not want to say the name of anymore because it's hard and I sound like an idiot? It's got one of the most satisfying battle systems in any JRPG I've ever played. Bar none. That's the thing that sticks out to me the most. But also, Ellie is the best girl. I will not be taking any other questions on this subject at this time, unless they're arguments for Kyria, in which one ear is at least open.
Yeah, for me, it's reincarnation, like, hands down. Seeing that trailer with a crowd in New York, that was great. And that song has always stuck with me. So it's that for sure. And Kyria sings it, so she is great.
I will accept this argument for now. So, for our transition, we usually like to highlight a fan cover or remix. Surprisingly, really hard to find one for this game. That's like 3 games in a row now that I've done where it's like, I couldn't find one. But I did finally find one. It is a rock cover of Reincarnation by YouTuber Shady Cicada. So please enjoy that. We will be right back.
So another 2015 Wii U underrated gem where a song plays in a trailer and actually was also initially revealed in a January 2013 Direct, as you pointed out. Let's talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X. But before we do that, we have to talk about Tetsuya Takahashi. Tetsuya Takahashi is a man who worked at Squaresoft in his early days of video game development. Some of his notable achievements, he designed the Magitech armor in Final Fantasy VI, and he was also the graphic designer for Chrono Trigger. Now, he originally submitted a plot for Final Fantasy VII that was deemed too dark and complicated for a fantasy game at Square, so it eventually became Xenogears. He then realized that Squaresoft was really going to focus on Final Fantasy and its sequels for the developer's near future. So he decided to establish his own developing company called Monolith Soft. Now, with Monolith Soft, he then made 3 major installments in the Xenosaga series, as it had its own narrative. There was some elements of Xenogears brought over, but it was really more, Xenosaga was really more of a spiritual successor. But it was still part of this overarching Xeno meta series. Now, Nintendo then purchased Monolith Soft in 2007. And so this trend with the Xeno series continued with 2010's Xenoblade on Nintendo Wii. Now, through Project Rainfall and bringing the game over from Japan and all that, the West would come to know this game as Xenoblade Chronicles. Now, when we're talking about Xenoblade X or Xenoblade Chronicles X, in Japan it's actually Xenoblade Cross, or the X being a cross. So Xenoblade Cross, then in that sense, was released in Japan on April 29th, 2015 for Wii U. We know the game in the West as Xenoblade Chronicles X, and it was released in North America and Europe on December 4th, 2015. Australia on December 5th. While it is part of the Xenoblade series, and overall part of the Xeno meta series, it is a spiritual successor to Xenoblade Chronicles. No story connections at all, really only carrying over several gameplay elements. Xenoblade X, Xenoblade Cross, Xenoblade Chronicles X, developed by Monolith Soft, but also co-produced and supervised by Nintendo SPD, published by Nintendo. This game is an open-world action RPG, Combat takes place alongside 3 AI party members, and on the surface level and kind of while playing it, it is very reminiscent of an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game, where you have all these abilities alongside the bottom of the screen with cooldown timers. The main gist of the gameplay, players are exploring a planet. You have these variety of quests, and you battle monsters along the way to unlock new regions of the planet where you can explore and gather resources. Overall, it's driven by a narrative that kind of overarches the overall gameplay with some cutscenes. I know very, very little about Xenoblade Chronicles X. I really like the soundtrack, so I'll have Wikipedia do the talking when it comes to summarizing what the plot is. Saying, quote, "Following Earth's destruction during an alien war, humanity attempts to escape with only a few ships surviving. One such ship, the colony New Los Angeles, narrowly escapes and crashes on the uncharted planet Mira. After being rescued from a hibernation pod by a woman named Elma, the player character, who's a customizable avatar, becomes a member of Blade, which protects New Los Angeles and seeks the Life Hold, vital to their survival, while fending off the hostile Ganglion and investigating Mira's secrets. The overarching question of the story seems to be, can humanity continue to survive on Mira?" So, Joe, what are your experiences with Xenoblade Chronicles X?
I know Elma's name.
Yeah!
That's literally it.
And then if you know games, and if you follow games and pick up on spoilers, you pick up on certain spoilery things about this game. It's a weird story. Honestly, I have not played this game. I do not own this game. But I am very interested in the soundtrack and have been for several years because of one person. And we'll get into who that person is and what their role is later.
And this is basically like the only one left from the Wii U. No, there's 2 games left. 3. So this is like the top 3 left that haven't come to Switch yet.
It's Xenoblade Chronicles X, Super Mario 3D World,
and Wonderful 101. Those are the 3.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good point. I mean, Pikmin 3, maybe?
Pikmin 3, I guess. Possibly.
Maybe, kind of. But yeah, we're really getting down to like one hand count them for what games still need to come over from Wii U to Nintendo Switch. That's certainly a very good point. So learning about Xenoblade Chronicles X was certainly interesting for someone who knows very, very little about it. Apparently, while developing it, discussions on how to realize this game went on for about 6 months, and it was originally planned to release early in Wii U's life cycle. But the planned release date was pushed due to development issues, such as debugging a world that was 5 times bigger than Xenoblade Chronicles'. So it's a big improvement. Like I mentioned during a January 2013 Nintendo Direct, the game was announced as X. This red X splashed across the screen that was very reminiscent of, Xenogears and Xenosaga and all that. But, okay, the X, so what could it be? It featured monster combat in and out of a mech. This is called on YouTube Wii U Monolith Soft Trailer, if you'd like to look it up today. But it's actually the E3 2013 trailer that I remember much more. This one is called Wii U New Title Developed by Monolith Software Inc. Trailer.
Ah, my favorite game.
Yeah, because again, it was just X at the time. This one, it was during that E3 Nintendo Direct for 2013, had a pilot in a hangar that was approaching a mech, and then taking off into an open world with a vocal theme playing. Definitely a powerful trailer for like what could the Wii U be ultimately capable of with portraying this large open world where you have this mech taking off and flying and like seems endless, really. But apparently the cross designation for the Japanese release apparently represented the meeting of different races in the game story, as well as interaction of players online during gameplay. For the English version, the X symbol stood for the unknown and also represented alien life and the unknown planet of Mira, in addition to the interaction in battle between humans and the Skells, with the Skells being the name for these mechs. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles X was Monolith Soft's first HD game, which you think about, that's a little crazy. I mean, they had the few Xenosaga kind of games from 2002, 2004, 2006, 2010, Xenoblade Chronicles on Wii, not an HD game, and then now 2015, Xenoblade Chronicles X. They found it a challenge to be able to fit the entire game onto a single 32 gigabyte Wii U disc. And even then, the game runs at 720p 30. Like, it kind of sounds a little weak now, I guess, especially for, the Wii U, but consider fitting this big open world on Wii U an accomplishment in itself. Now, Tetsuya Takahashi felt like he received too little criticism from fans from Xenoblade Chronicles, which is an odd thing to complain about. So he tried to mix things up to encourage feedback that he could then use for future titles. Why not just recreate a sequel? Who knows? But apparently combat was catered more towards more devoted hardcore RPG fans. Faster speed, removal of a healer class. You could still heal in some ways with the game mechanics, because there was just a plethora of mechanics to consider. So it was just kind of trying to challenge what Xenoblade was and create this spiritual successor.
You didn't tell me you didn't like it, so I'll give you something to like. That's like how I take that.
Yeah, go figure. It doesn't make much sense to me either. You may notice I said online multiplayer earlier because, yes, this game did have online multiplayer. It exists. It was added halfway through development, and it's actually really bare bones because of Monolith Soft's overall inexperience with the feature. They definitely had to call in help from Nintendo on that one. But what resulted was a 4-player online game mode that had some special quests for collaboration there, and up to 32 players for an in-game chat, some item trading, and overall some information sharing functionalities. Because of this introduction of an online mode, the fact that you'd be meeting up with other players, this caused a comprehensive story rewrite, because the protagonist was originally his own character, like Shulk was in Xenoblade Chronicles, but now had to be changed to a customizable avatar character, because you'd be meeting other characters online. Whoops.
I hate to see that happen.
But the story was complicated enough as it was. See, the team felt like the game should continue the tradition from Xenoblade Chronicles of having characters talk during battle, as it apparently made the original game stand out. So when we're talking about Tokyo Mirage sessions and how, a color commentator might have been nice, well, you're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles and how everyone is talking all the time, all of these lines. You can barely hear the in-game music because everyone is talking about the moves that they'll commit to or reacting to those moves. It's a lot. It's a lot of talking. But apparently there were 3,000 battle lines in the original Xenoblade Chronicles. The number of battle dialogues increased to 11,000 lines.
That's too many for one. No.
Yeah, it's a little insane. And in fact, Monolith Soft game director Ko Kojima thought that this was a misprint when he first saw the word count. So, no. The total voice work in total was 4 times that of Xenoblade Chronicles, and this resulted in some of the voice actors losing their voices during recording some battle lines.
Oh, no.
I tried to look up gameplay to get a sense of what is it actually like. Is it really like the MMO-like experience that I kind of remember Xenoblade and Xenoblade 2 being? Oh, it is. And it's just a ton of talking. It's excessive, honestly. So, 84 is a company that can help with localization, and they assisted Nintendo Treehouse with the localization for this game. Some of their other localization credits include Fire Emblem Awakening, we're going to bring that game up again, as well as Tales of Vesperia. So there were some changes for the localization of this game. Looking back on old trailers for this game, they refer to the mechs as dolls. We now in the West know those mechs as Skells, so this is a name change there. But this was another game with more claims of censorship, because there was a character customization slider for altering the breast size of the female avatar, and this was removed entirely in the West. Also, the underage character of Lin, she had a bikini outfit in the Japanese version, and this was removed. And if you have a problem with this, Lin is 13 years old.
Oh, God.
So, there's a whole point about Western sensibilities and what we will tolerate over here. Actually, the voice actress, Cassandra Lee Morris, she's Morgana in Persona 5. She's Edea in Bravely Default. She's Sothis in Fire Emblem Three Houses, among plenty of other games. She's the voice actress for Lin, and she was actually instructed to give Lin an older voice compared to her Japanese counterpart because, quote, the team felt a young-sounding voice would grate on players over the course of the game.
Censorship. Please learn. A, please learn what that word means. B, please have a real problem. Once in your life, experience a real problem.
And learn what localization is. Overall, Xenoblade Chronicles X was reviewed well, with a Metacritic score of 84. The game's exploration, its combat, its visuals, and even the multiplayer functions were generally praised, but its narrative, the mission structure, and its complicated gameplay were points of criticism. Nintendo World Report scored it a 9.5 out of 10, stating that it is, quote, required playing for anyone with the slightest inclination towards RPGs, and if you need to buy the system, then do it, as it is an essential part of the Wii U library. So, NWR, giving a shout out there, love the game. At least the reviewer who did that review.
Funnily enough, Nintendo World Report came up during mine too, like with a name that of a person I know now. And that threw me for a loop.
Oh, we know the reviewer for this one too, so I must say that was interesting to see as well. There weren't really any notable awards for Xenoblade Chronicles X. It was just, honestly, I think it was a strange release timing, first of all. I mean, for at least Western releases for an early December game, that's kind of strange and also didn't help for the promotion of the game, to be honest. As of December 2015, Xenoblade Chronicles X sold roughly 377,000 units between Japan, France, and the United States, which is honestly not much to brag about, but you can thank the Wii U for that in general. What this game did do, however, it established a game engine and a lot of foundational work that could be used for Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which, yet you guessed it, is also a spiritual successor with really no narrative connection. But it did make the development time for this game much faster because of that foundation there. But also emphasis was placed on the story instead of X's world exploration. Now, as we mentioned, this is one of the last games that still have yet to be ported from Wii U to Switch. And a port to Switch is desired by Takahashi, but he says that money is an issue and that reconfiguring it to the Switch would be difficult due to the game's massive size. In 2018, Takahashi said that while a sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles X is possible, Monolith Soft may take the series to a completely new direction.
Yeah, they don't seem to be the kind of people that do direct sequels ever, I'm noticing.
It also has a soundtrack that is unlike anything in the Xenoblade series, for better or for worse. And this is because of one man who, it's the reason I love this game's soundtrack, actually. We're talking about Hiroyuki Sawano. Yes. Finally talking about Hiroyuki Sawano. Because the man is a legend in anime, as far as anime music. Not as much in game music, actually, as I discovered. I only discovered a few things about Sawano, actually. He was born on September 12th, 1980 in Tokyo, Japan. He began playing piano in elementary school, and at age 17, he studied composition, arrangement, orchestration, and piano under Nobuchika Tsuboi. He started a project that focused on vocal songs starting in the spring of 2014 called Sawano Hiroyuki NZK, with the NZK in brackets. So that seems to be like his big thing. Like he's not part of like a band or like an ensemble. He works with different vocalists, some that he likes working with more than others, but really works on making these vocal singles that could be used in different places like anime, occasionally then also taking on these big composition projects. And honestly, for as big of a name, if you know about composers, about Japanese composers, as big of a name as Hiroyuki Sawano is, I am shocked that I did not find any more about this man. Even fan wikis about Sawano did not have that much. So honestly, go figure. I really expected to find more, but there it is. His discography is impressive, though. On an anime front, he is the composer of the music for Attack on Titan, Kill la Kill, The Seven Deadly Sins, Blue Exorcist, Promare, Guilty Crown, Mobile Suit Gundam. We have Unicorn Narrative and Hathaway's Flash. The Attack on Titan one is the one I know Sawano's music for. A great score there. So we talk about Revo, Revo from Bravely Default, and doing the openings with Linked Horizon from Attack on Titan, but then it's Hiroyuki Sawano doing the actual score for that anime. Aside from a game adaptation of Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, Xenoblade X is the only game that is really of note that he's composed music for. So it's not really his thing. Other projects that he's composed for include Thunderbolt Fantasy and Team Medical Dragon.
So Thunderbolt Fantasy is where I would know his music. Hey, yo, I'm just sorry, I gotta pull this away from you real fast just to be like, hey, Thunderbolt Fantasy rules.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch it. It's got a fantastic soundtrack, and I did not actually know that was Sawano. So that's really neat.
Yeah, so that's super cool.
I guess that's another theme we have is games where the composers are known for anime, not for games.
That is very true. Definitely more for anime. When it came to the development of Xenoblade Chronicles X's soundtrack, the team really didn't want anything stereotypical for the music. I guess they wanted to
they got it.
Yeah, it's different, all right. And they definitely wanted to break away from, Ace and Yoko Shimomura and all that for the first game. They wanted a challenge in seemingly all aspects, and this is the case even for the soundtrack. Now, Tetsuya Takahashi, series creator for the Xeno series and the executive director for this game, apparently a big fan of Sawano's and insisted that he worked on this project. I mentioned Kojima earlier, the director on the Monolith Soft side of things, said, quote, Sawano said that he doesn't really play video games, but he brought up unconventional ideas like bringing in vocals to the battle music. We requested a total track list that was out of the ordinary, but he agreed to make all of them right away. And yeah, that's the big thing about this game. It's unusually specific in the sense that it has a lot of vocals in its in-game themes, especially during battles. A lot of vocals. Vocalists in the game include rapper David Whitaker and singers Mika Kobayashi, Yumiko Inoue, Amy Blackschlegger, Syuya, MPI, and Sayuri. So a lot of voices in this one. We're talking epic sounds and vocals, whether chorus or actual singing, or other ways of getting words across. And so let's talk about and hear those things in the 5 critical tracks for Xenoblade Chronicles X. And we'll start with the opening track from the soundtrack, Codename Z. This plays during the Ganglion invasion on New Los Angeles, also basically when the Ganglion mothership appears and enters the city. And it later plays in apparently the cutscene when the party encounters the Zoo Farg. Thank you, Xenoblade Wikia. Honestly, the only way I would know these things. So, what an exhilarating start to the soundtrack. You have electric guitar, you have a lot of percussion, these big epic choral vocals, and like this is Sawano to a T. Like if you've heard the Attack on Titan score and know Sawano's music, you're like, yep, this is him exactly, just brought to a video game, and it's just all sorts of amazing and just ear-meltingly good.
And on my end, if you've heard the Thunderbolt Fantasy soundtrack, oh yeah, this checks out. Like this song, you said the word big, and I think that is the perfect like descriptor of this song. It's big.
It makes sense. It's an alien invasion. So yeah, I think it totally checks out there. Number 2 on the Critical 5. Number EX01. All right, now we're getting some vocals in this one, but the sound is still so big. Like, it's still, I like, yes, undeniably, Sawano. This is heard during different story and mission boss battles, apparently particularly during chapters 7 through 10. And yes, if you were wondering, Mika Kobayashi is that same vocalist from Attack on Titan. So if it's just like, this sounds very similar, well, Sawano likes to work with different vocalists and, carrying over to different projects. So, yeah, this one just hits you, especially when you're kind of hearing the build up of the song and then it pauses. And then, ba-ba, like it just hits you right in the face. Just really catchy, and I really like it a whole lot.
I think this is one of my favorite tracks on your Critical 5. And, I just keep bringing it up, man. This sounds exactly like what I remember hearing from Thunderbolt Fantasy.
And I don't know if that's like a bad thing, because like
it's not, because it means his style is incredible and I can pick it out immediately the instant I'm told it's him.
And that is a good thing. But it's also like you don't want to be put into like a box. Like just say, oh, Sawano's the epic guy. Like is that I mean, granted, we're pulling from Attack on Titan, a series about big, monsters, and Thunderbolt Fantasy, puppets, like
and Gundam. I mean, it's like Gundam's the biggest mech series in the world.
Yeah, no, a fair
about war. It's
when you're talking about like Gundams and the Skells, like that's a fair point. But like, yeah, just again, another epic song. Number 3 on the Critical 5 is where it starts to get a little bit different, though, and this is Black Tar.
Dark matter, every minute matters. Live a while, other lives shatter. See it go scatter. As they pour out, we can handle them. It's a car taking over the cave, unexpected, hard to accept it. Getting marked for death, seeking friends, snatched and darkly possessed. The tar inside, still in the body and breath. So only a shell is left. Witness the hell in the flesh, I fight to the death. Screaming, where's the relief? Maybe no more sleep. All swallowed in grief.
Look, this is one where I don't think the clip can do it justice. Go listen to the whole thing before like finally putting your full opinion on it. Lyrics and vocals are done by MPI and David Whitaker. David Whitaker doing the rapping in a sense. MPI does more of the singing. Yep, he's another one that carries over from Attack on Titan. Sounds very familiar. This is heard whenever the party engages an enemy in battle. Yeah, this is the random battle music. Again, you can't really tell because of all the talking, noise, backslash and all the stuff that's going on during battle, but it is there. This track is split up into two. The first part, and where this clip is actually from, is played during ground combat in particular. The second part is playing during Skell combat. So whether you're on foot or in the air, you kind of mix it up a little bit differently there. A lot of people don't like this song. Like a lot of people say, like, oh, this is like a big detraction from the soundtrack. This song's weird. What's the rapping doing here? Count me in for this track. I love it. Granted, I will admit that some of the lyrics get a little bit weird and juvenile later. The Video Game Donkey video does like to point out, hello, is this thing on? Is anyone there? I need a bigger gun. Like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, I get it. Yes, entirely. But the backing beat behind it is so cool. I'm in for the rapping. Like, it kind of reminds me of Linkin Park a little bit. I mean, what about you?
Now that you mention it, yeah, I can hear some Linkin Park in that. That checks out. I can't not think of the part that Donkey points out in this video, because that was the first time I ever heard any part of this song ever.
It's a terrible first impression, I know.
But also, like, the part you have for the clip sounds awesome. I think this is, overall, this would probably... It helps that I'm already a fan of Persona music, which is a good amount of rapping and on its own, like Mass Destruction. That's a good introduction to video game music with rap in it. And like, I have a good amount of game songs that are raps that I very much enjoy. I think this might, if I was hearing it in game for the first time, there's a possibility it would probably fall in the Otherworld category though, or the Crimson Cloud category, where it's like, I don't like this song. And then by the end of the game, I'm just like, this song is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's probably the most divisive track on the soundtrack, but count me right the heck in. Number 4 on the Critical 5. This is Uncontrollable.
All things gone from left to right, and this world is changing fast. It's so hard to find the answer for itself. Can't we find the key to life? I don't want to be a friend. Yeah, this magic week was right. Now it's time to ride.
On this song, you have original lyrics provided by MPI and vocals also by MPI and Mika Kobayashi. So if it sounds like an Attack on Titan song, again, yeah, it's these two kind of providing a duet here. Sounds a lot brighter, honestly. Just really good energy for this one. This plays apparently during most Tyrant battles, and will begin playing as soon as the Tyrant has detected the lead party member. Apparently, this is also the track that is featured in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 when the party can battle Elma. So that's a cool little thing. So like, this is one that carries over into a slight connection into the franchise.
So what gets me about this song is I was super down for it until you said Tyrant battles plural. This does not sound like a song that should play multiple times in any game.
I think that's a good point, yeah.
This sounds like a song that should be a big, important moment, and that is when it plays, and it does not play again.
Fair enough. I think that's what we're generally conditioned to with a lot of vocal songs. Like, we expect it at like a big moment. But I think that's really something that this game tries to do, is just like an abundant overuse of vocal songs for its big battle moments. So that's a really good point, though. I think it's a notable critique. I think that's very fair. But number 5 on the Critical 5 is the song that made me fall in love with this soundtrack, the idea of this soundtrack that hooked me with this trailer. This is The Key We've Lost.
Let's find the key we lost. All the people crying pain. Try to live your life and decide when I go by. Tell me what's thinking, tell me your way, and it's always here. One looked at world, there's a price to save your heart on my soul, and the sun goes down with all my faults.
Original lyrics on this song by MPI and the vocals by Mika Kobayashi. The track is overall split into two parts, and this clip is from the first part, which is the battle against the final boss, actually. Kind of weird that it is, because this was, the build up to this song is when, the pilot's in the hangar and he's walking up to the Skell, and when the Skell takes off, it's the drop heard in the clip. So, it was that moment that I was like, oh, yeah, I really like the sound of this, but it's the final boss theme. Interesting. Apparently the second half of the track is just heard against, normal ground battles with these different, Siluth, Gularth, and enemy xenoforms and machines, boss battles of normal and infinity missions that feature intelligent life. A lot of wiki gobbledygook, but that's the second part of the clip. It's overall two distinct sounds on the track as a whole, but it's this vocal theme that really I associate deeply with the game and my interest loosely in it.
I don't remember this trailer.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure why I don't remember this trailer, because this song sounds vaguely familiar. And it's really cool. It's really, 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 really good. But I don't remember this trailer at all.
I feel like if you'd watch it, though, something may come back to you.
Possibly. I can picture being in the living room that would have been my living room at that time. Watching a direct. But that's where it ends.
Well, on the cutting room floor for this game, I have two just other sounds and songs that I like. First is Yako Mori. So this is the theme that is heard in Noctilum, which is, I guess, a part of the Mira world. Even though it has vocals, it's not really credited. But I think this is just a really calming piece, like a wave just washing over you and making you feel good. It still has that Sawano style, though, with the vocals. And hey, you get a little bit of flute in there at the end. It's a really nice, refreshing piece. I like this one a lot.
This is the most Thunderbolt fantasy of any of them.
Yeah,
absolutely. This Thunderbolt fantasy is about samurais and stuff, so this fits immediately in with that.
I could see that for sure. And then the second one on the cutting room floor, Z5 Mira. This is another track that is split into two. This clip is taken from the second part, which plays in different cutscenes, especially at the start of the Ganglion invasion in Chapter 8. And so, again, it's another invasion, so you get this really intense song, but it's a different Sawano style. And this one is really, I almost picked this one out for you, honestly, Joe, because it's just intense strings. Violin going ham on this one, and just really picking up the intensity for, again, an alien invasion. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, thank you for your New Year's gift. I love it. It fits perfectly.
Absolutely. Happy to do so. What will I never forget about this game that I have never played? It really is the soundtrack. To have Hiroyuki Sawano contribute to a video game in such an intense manner to create a soundtrack that they'd go back to Ace for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Granted, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, amazing soundtracks as well. Like, this is a series with incredible music, but Sawano's touch is just different. And if you love his work from his anime or even for Thunderbolt Fantasy, it's a really nice touch to have him in a video game, at least. And it's that soundtrack that really made me interested. I'm a little disappointed that there doesn't seem to be much information about Sawano, like talking about his history, what inspires him and all that, at least what I could find. Because even a fan wiki, I kind of dropped the ball there. But I'm really happy that I got to at least learn a bit about this game and talk about the game's soundtrack.
See, I'll never forget that our friend Fossils really wants Elma in Smash. And she ain't never gonna be in Smash. That's a lie. Anybody could be in Smash at this point. And actually, I do think that Elma has at least some semblance of a chance.
We'll see. It would be very, very interesting. But yeah, I don't see that being too likely. I hope this game comes to Switch. Someday. Knock it off that remaining list or whatever. So yeah, just great games overall. 2015 Wii U underrated titles. Just really fun soundtracks to talk about on this show. So that will do it for us this week on Original Sound Chat. You can find me on Twitter at Pete Speakeasy. Joe is over at The Dobaga. The video version of the show is on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel, also at rhymeswithasia.com. But it's that MP3 podcast version that you want. Anonymous Dinosaur and on dino.squarespace.com is where it's hosted. But really, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and now on Spotify. So you can find us anywhere to subscribe, wherever your podcast feeds will take you. Because you can listen to us on a run, in your car, at work, and we won't tell your boss that you're listening to conversations about great video game soundtracks. When you're done with that, find us on social media at Soundchat OST for leaving feedback on the episodes and suggestions for what you'd like us to cover. More games to play and talk about. The Spotify playlist, we take the songs that we talk about on the show and add them to this big Spotify playlist that you maintain. Anything from this week?
Well, these are both first-party Nintendo games, so unfortunately, nada.
Boo. Well, maybe next time. And then we'll hopefully have bonus tracks coming along. I mean, yeah, if you like that Best of 2019 song, we're already hard at work on 2018. Don't know when it'll come out, but we're working on it. Joe, who are we talking about next week?
Are we talking about Kangao?
Oh, finally. Can't wait. I will be talking about Kohei Tanaka, another anime specialist. Oh, should be a great one next week for sure. Well, to play us out, we do like to talk about a fan cover, a fan remix, and on YouTube, OC Remix, wherever. I gotta find some cover out there for Black Tar. I like that song so much. Found one by Cade Kalka on YouTube. This is a metalcore cover of the song, and I really dig it. Like the instrumentation. Hopefully you do too. Thank you so much for listening this week on Original Sound Chat. We'll see you next time. Take care.